Welcome, friend, to the world of ancient Rome. Settle in, make yourself comfortable. Here you can relax. You are safe here. Ah, the scent of cedar wood and lavender. The sound of water mixing with the clink of tile. Beneath the fading light of day, you find yourself in a bathhouse, one of many in the sprawling city of Rome. The air is warm, steamy even, and the scent of cleaning oils and perfumes hangs heavy. The tiled floor is cool beneath your feet as you move through the labyrinthine corridors, each turn revealing new scenes. Here, slaves meticulously scrub the patron's skin with sharp scrapers, their faces impassive behind their masks of black and red. There are men of all ages, the young and the old, the strong and the weak, free and the unfree, all united in the pursuit of cleanliness and the company of others. Further in, the heat rises as you pass through a series of frigidarium, the cold plunge, the tepidarium, the warm room, and finally, the caldarium, the hot bath. In the center, a marble fountain whispers secrets into the still water, as a bronze statue of a long-forgotten emperor watches over it all. Some bathe, some chat, some seek only the comforting silence of the steam. In the shadows, unseen, unheard, the slaves move like wraiths, serving, cleaning, preparing for the next patron. Their work is never done, their presence barely acknowledged. For in this place, as in so many others in ancient Rome, there was a strict hierarchy, a rigid order. The free men could relax, enjoy themselves, indulge in the pleasures of the bathhouse. The slaves had their duty to ensure that these pleasures were many and distractions few. They were the unseen engines of pleasure, the quiet cost of luxury. But the bell rings, signaling the end of the bath. As the patrons leave, the slaves linger, cleaning up, sharing a stolen moment of relaxation. Soon, though, they must be ready for the evening rush, for the night is young, and the bathhouse, like ancient Rome, never truly sleeps. Meanwhile, in a different part of the city, under the watchful gaze of flickering oil lamps, a woman stirs. Her name is Agrippina the Younger, and she is about to step into the heart of Roman power. She walks with purpose, her head held high, her eyes sharp and alert. She is a daughter of the emperor, a sister of Caligula, and soon she will be a wife and mother. But tonight, she treads a dangerous path, balancing the expectations of an empire on her shoulders. As you watch her, you know that her story, like those of so many others in ancient Rome, is one of ambition, love, loss, and the relentless march of fate. Will she rise to the heights of power or crumble in its shadow? Only time will tell. Now, my friends, the night is ours. Let us explore the hidden corners of the Mithraic chambers. Delve into the mysteries of the cult of the dying and rising god, and uncover the secrets that have been whispered across the millennia. And when we return, we shall recline with the elites, taste their peculiar luxuries, and uncover the secrets of their sumptuous feasts. The world of ancient Rome awaits. Are you ready to explore it with me? The year is 64 AD. The place, the Roman Empire's capital city, Rome. Our story begins with the first rays of dawn creeping over the tiled rooftops of Rome. The air is damp and heavy with the faint scent of coal ash and mildew. Outside, the city still slumbers, but your work has already begun. For you are a bathhouse slave, and your day begins like every day has before, lonely. In the dim lamplight of the underground furnace chamber, known as the hypocaust, here, hidden from the eyes of the patrons, you tend to the fiery heart of the thermae. The Romans call this place a thermae. It may look beautiful on the surface. Marble columns, pools of clear water, mosaic floors. But beneath that polished exterior, there's a constant rhythm of labor. And you, silent and unnoticed, are the one who keeps it running. Your life, like the flickering flames before you, burns steadily, silently. You weren't born to this. You were born to freedom. You're born to a mother who loved you, to a father who held you. But those memories are as faded as an old tapestry, worn thin with age and ill-remembered dreams. Instead, you awaken here, crouching beneath the arches alongside dozens of other young men and boys, all condemned to the same grim fate, stoking the fires that will soon warm the great baths above. The heat is punishing, Not a dry warmth, but a heavy, smoky press that coats your skin with sweat and soot within moments. You don't speak much. Voices are too easily heard through the thin walls, and any perceived laziness can earn you punishment. So you move as one, a synchronized ballet of exhaustion, each feeding the insatiable maw of the furnace and bracing for the onslaught of the day ahead. Hours pass, and the fire builds until the first customers arrive. The public bath opens with the city. First come the quiet men, retired soldiers, aging senators, men of small ambition and early habits. Later, the crowds grow louder. Merchants, young noblemen, bodyguards, foreigners, and as the steady stream of patrons winds ever upward, you slip out from beneath the floors and into the bathing halls. The hour of labor is upon you. And though your muscles ache from tending the furnaces, there is no rest for you yet. Another task awaits: cleaning. There's no mop, no disinfectant, just rags, crushed herbs, and a weary arm. You wipe away the dirt, oil, and skin of hundreds, plunging into the thick, dark water to scrub and scrape the grime from tired bones. The air grows thick with the scent of sweat, perfume, and the sharp sting of vinegar. Sometimes you kneel beside the pool, holding out a tray of scented oil or scraping tools. A bather may snap his fingers or point wordlessly, expecting you to know precisely what he wants. Sometimes they complain that the water's too cold, that their sandals are missing, that their towel wasn't folded properly. You bow, you apologize, you vanish. In the blink of an eye, you appear beside the next patron, ready to serve. Behind the caldarium, there's the palestra, the open courtyard where men wrestle and exercise. They shout and grunt and sweat and strain. Eventually they return inside, bodies covered in olive oil and dust, demanding to be scraped clean with strigils. Curved bronze tools used to strip away dirt and oil. You assist with this too, at times holding bowls, pouring lukewarm water, collecting hair and dead skin into clay pots to dispose of later. By my mid-afternoon, the noise in the bathhouse has grown, but your energy has not. You haven't eaten since morning. A crust of bread, maybe a fig. The overseer watches you, always nearby, ready to snap if he sees you pause too long. Sometimes fights break out, arguments over who entered the steam room first, over the favors of a masseur, over politics, over nothing. You learn to move quickly, without drawing attention, to be invisible. Behind the scenes, the steady, unseen motor that drives the bathhouse forward, that makes its wheels turn and its water flow. Never speaking out of turn, never making a sound. You keep your head down, working. You are just another cog in the well-oiled machine of the thermi. But as the sun dips below the horizon and casts long shadows across the tiled floors, you take a brief moment to steal a breath, watching the rush of patrons ebb away. As the sky deepens to the color of a bruise, and the first stars prick the darkening blue, the bathhouse grows quiet. The overseer is gone. Customers have departed, leaving behind the scent of sweat and ash, and something faintly human. You and the others begin your final round of cleaning. Buckets of water sloshed across stone, towels wrung dry, wood stacked for the morning, preparing the bathhouse for slumber. Finally, you return to your sleeping space, a cramped, low room beneath the stairs. No pillow, no blanket, just stone. And tomorrow, it will begin again. The bathhouse for most is a place of leisure, of cleansing. But for you, it is a machine, and you are one of its many, many cogs. Life as a Roman bathhouse slave was not easy. Long hours, back-breaking work, and a constant threat of violence loomed over their lives. Yet they persisted, adapting and finding moments of joy amidst the toil. Their days followed a steady rhythm, a cycle of tending furnaces, cleaning pools, and serving customers. While the patrons enjoyed the fruits of their labor, slaves toiled in relative obscurity, ensuring the smooth operation of these public spaces. Despite the harsh conditions, they managed to build camaraderie, finding solace in shared meals and stolen moments of rest. And when the empire was at its most opulent, some slaves experienced relative luxury, enjoying grand feasts and comfortable accommodations. Though their stories remain largely untold, their resilience and adaptability were key to the Roman way of life. Now we turn from the tiled walls of the bathhouse to the marbled corridors of power, to a woman born into privilege destined for influence and fated to fall. Meet Poppaea Sabina, a name that echoes through history as both a symbol of beauty and a pawn in the merciless game of power. Born in 30 AD, her early life was steeped in the traditions of Roman nobility. Her father, Titus, was a respected senator, and her grandfather, the emperor of Rome at the time, Marcus, ensured she had every advantage that wealth and status could buy. She grew up in the lap of luxury, surrounded by tutors, governesses, and every material comfort imaginable. Her childhood was a series of lavish parties, grand spectacles, and strategic marriages, all designed to secure her future and advance the family's interests. By the age of 16, her beauty and lineage made her a highly sought-after bride. Emperor Nero, infamous for his love of extravagance and excess, set his sights on her. Her father, recognizing the advantage of aligning himself with the emperor, agreed to the match. The wedding was a spectacle, a celebration of power, beauty, and the union of two influential families. The young couple, however, seemed ill-suited from the start. Nero was almost 20 years older than Poppaea. He was volatile, unpredictable, and increasingly unbalanced. While Poppaea was known for her intelligence, wit, and a strong will, traits that would later make her formidable, but which in the context of her marriage made her a challenging partner. Despite their differences and rumors of infidelity on Nero's part, the couple produced a daughter, Poppaea the Younger, cementing Poppaea Sabina's position in the imperial family. But the tranquility of this domestic arrangement was short-lived. Nero's mental state deteriorated rapidly, leading him to commit atrocities that shocked even the jaded citizens of Rome. His excesses, paranoia, and brutality created a climate of fear, and Poppaea found herself caught in the crossfire. In 65, a plot to assassinate Nero was uncovered, and he, ever suspicious, began to believe that Poppaea was involved. Without any concrete evidence, he banished her from Rome, stripping her of her titles and sending her into exile. Undeterred, Poppaea set about rebuilding her life. She immersed herself in literature, philosophy, and the arts, turning her vast wealth and former imperial connections to fund her projects. She became a patron of poets and philosophers, hosting salons that rivaled those of the most cultured Roman aristocrats. She also embarked on a series of grand building projects, including the construction of the Baths of Poppaea, a complex that was renowned for its beauty and grandeur. But her newfound independence did little to ease the pain of her separation from her daughter, whom Nero had taken with him when he left Rome. As Nero's madness reached its crescendo, culminating in the Great Fire of Rome in 64, Poppaea watched from afar, knowing that her daughter was trapped in the heart of the disaster. When the fire finally subsided and Nero returned to the city, he brought with him his new wife, a former slave named Sporus, who he had elevated to empress. This humiliation pushed Poppaea Sabina to the edge. She decided to return to Rome, hoping to win back her daughter's affection and perhaps even reclaim her place in the imperial family. However, her plan was thwarted when she died unexpectedly on the journey, possibly from complications of a previous pregnancy. She was only in her mid-20s. Her death, while unfortunate, offered her a release from the turmoil of Nero's reign and the heartache of her separation from her child. Poppaea Sabina's story is a reminder of the complexities of ancient Roman society. Despite being remembered primarily for her tragic relationship with Nero, she was a multifaceted individual whose intellect, creativity, and strength should not be overlooked. She remains an enigmatic figure in history, a victim of circumstance, yes, but also a testament to the enduring spirit of those who strive for autonomy and self-determination in the face of overwhelming odds. From the cold brilliance of the palace, we now descend underground. Two secret temples hidden beneath city streets. Darkness lit only by oil lamps. Rituals held in silence. You may have seen these images before. Found preserved in stone in places like London and Rome. They depict a god of light battling a monstrous beast. A bull, a snake, or something in between. And if you look closely, you might see an inscription, the name of a god, Mithras. So what is the story of Mithras? Who is he? Well, that's tricky, because across the vastness of his worship, there isn't a single answer. He's a sky god, a sun god, a god of truth, and a god of war. Most scholars think he originated in Persia around 1,000 years before Christ. His worship, like all good mysteries, had secrets. Only men could enter the cult. The initiates, those who practiced the religion, were bound by oaths. They lived moral lives, refraining from murder, theft, and adultery. They gathered in underground chambers lit by flickering oil lamps, far from the eyes of outsiders. In these places, they heard stories about their god, the birth of the bull, the sacrifice that saved humanity. They watched plays enacted in darkness, reenacted scenes from the god's life, and through it all, they learned the teachings of Mithras, the way of light, the way of courage, the way of service. It was a religion born in secrecy, whispered from initiate to initiate, carried forward on the lips of soldiers marching across the empires. And as such, its scriptures, if it had any, are lost to us today. So let me ask you this. What do you know about Mithras? What can you tell me about him? Well, thanks to excavations in places like Turkey and Germany, we have some clues, some carvings, some artifacts. Most importantly, the testimony of others. Scholars have pieced together a sort of composite picture, a portrait made up of fragments. And that's where our story will start. Our first glimpse of Mithra takes us back to ancient Persia, somewhere between the 10th and 6th centuries BCE. Maybe earlier, maybe later. Back then, he wasn't a god of the hearth and home. Instead, he was a warrior god, the slayer of demons, the bringer of justice. The Greeks called him the Far Eastern Ares. He was brutal, violent, untamed, and perhaps for that reason, it's a perfect god for soldiers. When Alexander the Great marched across the Near East, he took his armies into Persia, conquering cities like Persepolis, where he encountered Mithras. Like so many conquerors, he admired the local customs, even adopted some himself. And perhaps he adopted the god too, seeing in Mithras a kindred spirit, a fellow warrior. He commissioned statues of the two of them hunting side by side. There's one in particular that you should know, the so-called wounded lion. Alexander lies dying in the arms of Mithra, who has just slain a wounded lion. He comforts the mortal conqueror, tending to his wounds, knowing his time is short. This iconography followed Alexander's successors. We can see it carved into the columns of a temple at Dura Europos, a place where three empires met and mingled. Here Mithras rides a horse, shooting arrows at a winged demon. Behind him stands a kneeling Alexander, his armor bearing the insignia of Zeus. At his feet the felled serpent writhes, and above it all the sun shines down, a radiant orb in the sky. But Persia was vast, and as Alexander's empire crumbled, Mithras continued to be popular, especially among soldiers stationed along the eastern frontiers. One of those soldiers was a Roman, a cavalryman named Marcus Aurelius, the future emperor, who we met in the last episode. He fought against the Marcomanni along the Danube. And in the dead of night, he dreamt of a vision, a god speaking to him, instructing him to build him a temple. It happened again and again, urging him, demanding him, moving him toward the east. And finally, he listened, journeying all the way to Carnuntum to visit the temple of Mithras there. It was only after this journey that he started to write his meditations, his private thoughts, which became one of the great philosophical works of antiquity. For Aurelius, Mithras represented order, a balance against chaos. His wars were brutal and unending, his responsibilities crushing. He needed a guiding principle, a moral standard to which he could hold himself. So he turned to the god of Persia. And for Aurelius, Mithras was more than just a god. He was a reminder of himself, a reflection of the duties he carried, the principles he must follow. But as often happens with popular religions, as it morphs from region to region, its stories and symbols shift. The violent god of Persia became less important. The Roman soldiers who worshipped him cared less about his battles with monsters and more about his ability to protect them on the march. Around the 1st century CE, archaeologists found the foundation of a Mithraeum, temple to Mithras, buried underneath a house in the Roman city of Ostia Antica. On its walls, they discovered the most famous scenes from the cult, a soldier with wings killing a bull. That image would become iconic, appearing on everything from coins to frescoes. It was also adapted by Christians to represent the martyrdom of Saint Sebastian. But for the Romans, this myth represented bravery, discipline, devotion to duty, values, soldiers live and die by. And so the worship of Mithras spread across the empire, following the legions as they conquered, finding purchase wherever soldiers were stationed. By the 2nd century CE, the number of Mithraea grew exponentially, turning up in places like Lyon, France, Ostia, Germany, and beyond. This was also the period when the worship turned from battlefield to basement. The Romans were urbanizing, building sprawling apartment complexes without any open space or communal gathering areas. And so the secretive cults moved below ground, carving out temples in the foundations of buildings. One of the most famous was found in the Roman Forum itself, right next to the Colosseum. Its ceiling depicts the birth of the god. Light streams through a hole in the roof, illuminating the moment when Mithras is born from a rock. Next to him, 2 kings watch in awe. But why did Romans worship this obscure Persian god? Well, he offered them something Christianity did not: community. The underground temples felt more like homes than holy places. The members knew each other, shared meals together, celebrated festivals, even participated in secret rituals, drinking special wine, performing unique ceremonies, sharing stories about the god. In fact, outside the temples, Romans knew little about Mithras. They never spoke of the rituals or the mysteries inside. All they knew was that this god was different, reserved for those in the know, those who could handle the truth. And if you were one of them, you knew that Mithras wasn't just a god. He was a companion, a confidant, a friend. And for that reason, his followers were horrified when the Christians seized control of the Roman Empire. Their persecutions began immediately. Christians sealed the entrances to the Mithraea, defaced the statues, killed the priests, and slowly, surely, the worship of Mithras faded away. And yet, despite being abandoned and forgotten, the image of a winged soldier slaying a bull endured, surfacing in the art of medieval manuscripts, inspiring the tales of Behemoth and the Holy Roman Emperor. Even today, we find traces of him carved into the wall of old buildings, hidden in the folds of tapestries, buried beneath the floorboards of churches. So what can we learn from a god who lived in darkness, who demanded secrecy from his followers? Well, for one thing, he reminds us that empires don't always win. Sometimes they take ideas with them, whether they want to or not. And sometimes those ideas endure long after the empire falls. And for another thing, he reminds us of the power of community, how easy it is to join a crowd, but how difficult it is to stand alone. Return now to the world of light, to the bustling marketplaces, the gladiatorial games, the triumphs in the forum. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to leave a thumbs up. With that, let the games begin. Imagine this scene. You are a young man living in 2nd century Rome. Perhaps you are an educated youth, enjoying a grand villa outside the city walls. Maybe you're a lower-level clerk working in the heart of the bustling metropolis. Or perhaps you're a soldier fresh from campaigning in Dacia or Britain. Wherever you are, however, today's a special day. For tonight, you have been invited to join your patron and his family for dinner. Your table manners must be perfect, your clothes impeccable. And whatever the conversation turns towards, you must be ready to speak with intelligence and taste. After all, this is a household of elite Romans. They desire nothing more than for everyone to think their family is the best in Rome. And to achieve this, they show off their wealth and status at every turn. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to learn how the wealthiest families in ancient Rome used their money to show off their status and power through their everyday choices. So get ready. Tonight, we are having dinner with the Roman elites. First, we will move into the atrium. This is the center of Roman houses, a place to receive guests, a place to do business, and most importantly, a place to show off. On one side stands a fountain or a pool to collect rainwater, usually decorated with beautiful statues or intricate mosaics. Opposite that, on the other side, is a window, usually covered with glass, which allows light into the room. This area was deliberately designed to impress. Hence why wealthy Romans like to install beautiful works of art and sculpture here, a clear sign to all visitors of their financial resources. But it's time to eat, so we shall move into the next room, the dining room, also known as the triclinium. Here we can already see how the walls are covered with paintings and frescoes, most likely depicting scenes from Greek mythology, such as Heracles slaying the Nemean lion or Perseus rescuing Andromeda from the sea monster. They might also depict mythological creatures like dolphins, centaurs, or griffins. Whatever they show, though, it is clear that these works of art are expensive. They took time to make. They are well executed and they are tasteful. Nothing vulgar or obscene is allowed here. These displays of wealth aren't crass. They are elegant, refined, and above all, they are Roman. Our table is set and ready. On it, we find a luxurious meal fit for the emperor himself. And yes, the table has 3 courses. First, the appetizers, the antipastos. These might include delicacies like oysters, flamingo tongues, or caviar. Then comes the main course, including delicacies like peacock, dormouse, or even roast peacock with spices. And finally, the desserts, including honey-drenched figs, grapes, nuts, fruit, and wine. And speaking of wine, the triclinium is surrounded by marble columns and adorned with frescoes and sculptures. Our host is clearly very wealthy and cultured. Do you notice anything else? How the couches are curved? This makes our lives easier because we can lay down while eating. And so with a full belly, you begin to doze off. That is until the servants start clearing the table and bringing in new dishes. The second course has arrived, and this is where the party begins. In Rome, eating wasn't merely a necessity. It was a celebration, a chance to demonstrate one's wealth, to network with friends and allies, most importantly, a way to display one's culture. You know you have arrived when your table reflects the riches of the Roman world. Imported fish from the Atlantic, game birds from the East, the finest oils and vinegar. All of it piled high on silver platters and chased gold vessels. When you dine like this, every bite tells a story of distant lands, exotic flavors, and hard-won fortunes. The tastes dance on your tongue, each dish a new adventure. The finest cooks have labored for weeks to prepare this feast. Exotic spices from Arabia and India mingle with local favorites from Italy and Greece. The aroma alone could make any epicure drool. We are not mere diners. We are pilgrims on a gustatory journey. With every course, our appetites are tantalized. With every sip, our curiosity is piqued, and now the entertainment begins. Musicians play sweet melodies. Their voices fill the atrium with song. Bards recite verses, reciting poetry in praise of the host. Dancers twirl, mimicking the movements of the gods. The whole house resounds with mirth and merriment. Even the shadows seem to join in the revelry, cast by torches, candles, and oil lamps. The night grows late, the party winds down, but the memory of this feast will linger long in your mind. Such nights are rare. You think to yourself, but you are wrong. The Roman elite dined like this almost every night, and you have only glimpsed the beginning of the spectacle. There is still more to see. We must now move to the peristyle, a colonnaded courtyard that acts as a link between the atrium and the rest of the house. Here, after dinner, the party moves outside into the fresh air. The elite enjoy walking around the garden, admiring the plants and flowers from all over the empire. Delicate marble statues, the space, depicting gods and heroes frozen in mid-gesture. Fountains murmur softly in the background, adding a soothing soundtrack to the evening. The scent of orange blossoms mingles with the salty temps of the sea, carried on the breeze from the nearby shore. Palm trees sway gently overhead, casting cool shadows on the polished marble floor. Do you see that statue over there? Depicts the mythical founder of Rome, Romulus, suckled by the she-wolf. Other statues show famous Roman emperors like Augustus or Hadrian, reminding everyone of the glory of Rome. And finally, we reach the most opulent room in the house, the reception room, also known as the appetitorium. This is where the elite relax after a hard day of shopping, partying, or managing their estates. The walls are adorned with the finest frescoes and mosaics, depicting scenes from Greek mythology or simply celebrating the beauty of the natural world. But it's not just the art that impresses. The furniture is equally lavish, with inlaid tables and chairs made from rare woods and decorated with ivory and precious metals. The elite love to show off their wealth, but they also want to be comfortable. That's why the rooms are filled with cushioned couches and plump pillows. Everything is designed for maximum relaxation. The elite truly have it all. They have everything to pass the time, relieve their boredom, and entertain their guests. What could be more fun than gambling? The dice are cast and the games begin. Do you have the luck of the gods? Will fortune smile upon you, or will Lady Luck turn her back? The stakes are high, the tension builds, but in the end it is all in good fun. The loser pays up with a smile and a jest. The winner accepts the wager with a bow and a jest. After all, this is Rome, and in Rome, life is a game of wit, charm, and cunning. Just like chess, the pieces move across the board according to a higher design, guided by unseen forces of fate and free will. Outcome is never certain. The rules are always in flux, and the victors are as transient as the setting sun. And so, with a wave of the hand, the games are done. The laughter subsides, and the losers pay their debts with good humor. The night wears on, and the party moves elsewhere. But the memories linger, echoing in the marble halls and frescoed chambers. If you are lucky enough, you might be invited to the next gathering, where the revelry will surely continue. The elite live for pleasure, luxury, and amusement, and they share their bounty with those close to them. If you want to see what the common folk ate, then watch this video over here. Or if you want to learn about the real reason why gladiators fought to the death, then click on this video. The last embers glow within the hearth of the Mithraic, and its shadows lengthen with the sinking sun. Soon the torchlight will flicker against marble and fresco. As you leave the sanctuary of the god Mithras behind, the city of Rome is waking to the evening. In the twilight, the clatter of carts and chatter of vendors mingles with the bleating of goats and the clucking of chickens. Lanterns are lit, oil lamps glow in doorways, painting pools of light on dusty roads. It is the hour before dinner, and Rome prepares to feast. But what would you eat if you were in Rome? More than just food, what you ate told people who you were, where you were from, and even what you believed. Let's find out. We begin in the market. Food in ancient Rome was an expensive proposition, so shopping around was essential whether you were a wealthy noble or an impoverished slave. You passed stalls piled high with terracotta pots filled with garum, the pungent fermented fish sauce that adds depth and saltiness to any dish. Nearby, a vendor hawks fresh oysters, claiming they were plucked that very morning from the Bay of Naples. You hear the sizzle of pork fat hitting hot coals and the rhythmic clang of a hammer beating sheet after sheet of thin, glistening copper. Nearby, a peddler sells dried figs and dates, along with other delicacies imported from across the empire, like cinnamon and ginger from Arabia or pepper from India. Much of your diet depended on the season, too. In summer, there are juicy peaches and plums. Come autumn, pomegranates burst with flavor. When winter snows blanket the fields, preserved fruit and honey fill the void. Fresh bread, however, was always available, wafting warmly from bakeries throughout the city. Of course, much of this bounty would end up in the kitchens of wealthy Romans, whose diets were as varied as their ambitions. A rich Roman might start his day with eggs. But not just any eggs. Peacock eggs, naturally. Perhaps some wild boar sausage, too, or honeycomb drizzled with honey. Slaves prepare these dishes with precision, often following recipes passed down from generations past. This food is as much about display as it is about sustenance. Flavors mingle, colors clash, and textures contrast, creating a riot of taste and excess. Exotic ingredients from across the empire add complexity and rarity to every bite. They create a sense of wonder and curiosity, a reflection of the vastness and diversity of Rome's reach. The kitchen, in many ways, mirrors the empire itself. Just as Rome encompasses diverse cultures and far-flung lands, these kitchens bring together disparate flavors, ingredients, and cooking techniques under one roof. This fusion of culinary influences creates a unique and dynamic dining experience. And soon, it will be time to show off the results of their labor. The atrium of the Domos, the Roman house, is filled with the aroma of roasting meats and baking breads. Sunlight streams through an open doorway, illuminating the mosaic floors and frescoed walls adorned with scenes from Roman mythology. Here in this heart of the home, frescoes of laughing cupids and idyllic landscapes dance in vibrant hues. You step inside, leaving the bustling street behind, greeted by a cool, shaded interior. On one side, a fountain murmurs softly in a courtyard, while on the other, a series of rooms branch out. Each with its own purpose, yet all contributing to the grand spectacle of Roman life. First, there's the atrium, the center of the house, where family members gather and important guests are received. Beyond the atrium lies the dining room, the triclinium, where reclined couches invite guests to partake in the feast. Sunlight filters through curtains, casting dancing shadows on the floor. Atop the table, platters of food await, promising a culinary journey that will tantalize the taste buds and impress the guests. For tonight is no ordinary evening. Tonight is a feast. The Romans called it a convivium, a celebration of food, conversation, and connection. The centerpiece of the feast is, of course, the food, and the Romans took their cuisine seriously. Every dish is not just a collection of ingredients, but a carefully crafted performance. First comes the appetizer, a quick repast before the main event, featuring olives, cheese, or seafood. Next, the primary course, a medley of flavors and textures. Roasted meats, plump grapes, sweet fruits, and savory cheeses intermingle, each vying for attention. Desserts conclude the culinary performance with dried fruits, nuts, and sweet pastries, adding a final flourish of flavors. But the feast is more than just food. It's a chance for Romans to engage in friendly banter, debate philosophy, or recite poetry. The triclinium is not just a dining room, but a stage for rhetoric and wit. It's a place where social bonds are strengthened, alliances are forged, and power is subtly displayed. The feast unfolds over several courses, starting with the gestatio, or first course. This light repast awakens the appetite with dishes like sea urchins or marinated olives. Next comes the prima mensa, or main course. Here, the star of the show is a roasted pig, ceremoniously presented whole, its skin crisp and golden, crackling softly as it is carved. Guests marvel at its size and savor each bite of its succulent flesh. Side dishes of figs, grapes, apples, and pears complement the pork, their sweetness contrasting the savory meat. The dessert course, known as the secundae mensae, brings lighter fare, like dried fruit, cheese, and honeyed cakes. The feast culminates with a final flourish, selection of nuts and sweetmeats that leave guests feeling comfortably full and ready for the evening's entertainment. Throughout the feast, wine flows freely, diluted with water to avoid intoxication and enhance its flavor. A prized vintage of Falernian wine, renowned for its quality and aged to perfection, accompanies each course, enhancing the richness of the food and the conviviality of the occasion. While the food is central to the feast, the atmosphere is equally important. Musicians play soft tunes on the kithara or flute, creating a soothing backdrop for conversation. Sometimes dancers grace the triclinium, adding a touch of elegance and grace to the proceedings. On other nights, poets may read aloud from the works of Virgil or Ovid, adding a layer of intellectual stimulation to the feast. But the feast is not just about indulgence and entertainment. It's also a subtle game of power and status. The choice of dishes, the presentation of food, and even the placement of guests are all carefully considered moves in a complex social game. Wealthy Romans used the feast to display their power and influence, both to their fellow partygoers and to any potential rivals who might be watching. Every detail is designed to impress and intimidate, reminding everyone that this is not just a meal, but a demonstration of Roman power. So how did people eat during the Roman Empire? They ate with style, substance, and a dash of strategy. Whether in a humble insula or a grand villa, food played a central role in Roman life. It nourished the body, engaged the senses, and projected social standing. From the bustling markets to the intimate dining rooms, the story of food in ancient Rome is a testament to the ingenuity, ambition, and appetite of one of history's greatest empires. Now that you've experienced a Roman feast, it's time to take action. And now we leave behind the echoes of Rome. The tiled bathhouses have emptied. The coals beneath the hypocausts burn low, their heat finally surrendering to the cool stone. The murmur of senators, soldiers, and slaves has faded into the hush of moonlight. In your mind's eye, the city softens, the clamor stills. The domes and arches of the eternal city become silhouettes in the distance, and all that remains is the slow rhythm of forgotten footsteps and the warmth of stories gently told. Tonight you have walked a quiet path through ancient Rome, not as a conqueror or a general, but as an observer, a guest in the lives of those who live not in legend, but in routine. You began in the darkness before dawn, in the furnace rooms of the Thermae, with ash on your hands and sweat on your brow. You felt the ache of a laborer's body, the quiet obedience required, the small rituals that held the bathhouse together, a place others called restful, while you called it endless work. Then, in soft candlelight, you walked beside Agrippina the Younger, through palace halls and echoing chambers of ambition. You watched a woman carve her name into history with precision and purpose, and saw how power once grasped can slip so silently through the fingers. From there, you descended again into the Mithraic. Stone beneath your feet, faint light flickering. The hush of ancient ritual pressing in from every wall. You shared space with the unseen, those who gathered in silence, seeking meaning in mystery. Their voices are gone, but the walls remember. And finally, you reclined among the patricians, the scent of roasted spices and crushed herbs lingering in the air. You tasted a world not ruled by hunger, but by display, where feasts were performances, and silence was as valuable as silver. You saw what it meant to wield leisure as status, what it meant to dine, not just to eat. Each of these moments, each step through stone corridors and painted halls, was a fragment of something greater, glimpsed soft and unhurried, into a civilization shaped by rhythm, repetition, order. The Romans, like us, lived by routines, by morning tasks, afternoon errands, evening rituals. They sought warmth, rest, familiarity. And now, as you lie still, you might notice that same rhythm within yourself, the slowing of your thoughts, the gentle pace of your breath, the heaviness behind your eyes, as if they too have walked through time. There's comfort in that sameness, in knowing that across thousands of years, under thousands of different skies, people have ended their days just like this, weary, reflective, hopeful for a quiet night. In the grand telling of history, it is easy to focus on war, on drama, on noise, but there is a quieter history too, one made of routines, of quiet choices, of slow movements across tiled floors. It is that history, the boring one, the gentle one, that cradles us now. Because while battles blaze and empires rise and fall, someone must always tend the baths, fill the wine, light the lamps. Their stories are soft, but they are never empty. So if your eyes grow heavy now, that is as it should be. Let the names drift away. Agrippina, Mithras, Nero, the patricians, all dissolving like steam in a cooled room. Let your breath deepen, steady and slow, like the steps of a Roman scribe crossing a silent marble hallway. There is no need to remember, only to rest. For Rome will still be there in the morning, its arches still standing, its stories still waiting to be told. It's begun. And until then, you need only close your eyes and drift. Good night. And thank you for walking with us through the quiet corners of history.